Giving me an up-close and personal view. And welcome back to the JoAnne Powell Show. I am JoAnne. We're coming to you from the World Center of Broadcast Media, WCOBM Hollywood. It is Black History Month, and we have been talking about the civil rights movement and how a particular young lady, she's joining me in talking about what was going on during that time. She was 5 years old when Dr. King spearheaded the Freedom March in Selma, Alabama, and her home, her childhood home, was ground zero for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his staff as they planned this march that basically was instrumental in coming up with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So joining me now is JoAnne Jackson. She is now the CEO of the Sullivan and the Richie Jean Sherrod Jackson Foundation and Museum, because your home is now a museum because of this historical component and the part that it played in the civil rights movement, in this, specifically this aspect of it. So let's talk about, I guess, some of the activities. Let's take us to the night when Dr. King was sitting in your home watching television, and we do have video that can correlate with some of the things that we're talking about, video of what was happening in Selma at the time. At the time, if you were African American or Black person, you could not vote. So that was kind of the foundation of the movement leading to the Voting Rights Act. So Dr. King would come to your home and meet with world leaders, religious leaders, civil rights workers, and talk about their strategy and their plans. He even was negotiating with President Johnson from your home. Actually, in one of the bedrooms, in one of the guest rooms, you actually have the phone where he was talking to him, negotiating that civil rights, the Voting Rights Act. So that night was kind of an interesting night because you said that no one really knew what President Johnson was going to say at the time.
No. You know, there was so much anticipation for the president addressing the nation and, you know, essentially telling the nation what his plans were for the future and voting rights. And, of course, no one knew. And there was a photographer embedded in the home that night from Life magazine, Frank Dandridge, who wanted to capture Dr. King's expression as he watched President Johnson. And the speech is now called the We Shall Overcome speech, because President Johnson ended the speech that night not only saying that he was going to sign the Voting Rights Act, but that we as a country shall overcome because of the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights March and the movement of a people and how important the movement of a people can be for a democracy. My mother was in the room that night and witnessed Uncle Martin a tear as President Johnson announced that he was going to sign the Voting Rights Act. It was a huge night for everyone.
I know as a part, you and your mom were a part of the Freedom March. What was that like? What can you remember about being a part of this historical event that led to something so changing in our nation's history?
You know, I wish I had been just a little older to really understand the complexities of the right to vote, to know that it is the cornerstone of any democracy, and it is certainly the cornerstone of our country. Being able to participate in that march was quite historic. Not only to know that the president was calling into our home as negotiations were going on. But to know that footsteps by people all over this country rising up to say that we are a just and free society, still brings me pause and makes me feel good about America and the country we call home.
Now, how old were you when Dr. King was assassinated?
I was 8, going on 9 years old.
What was that like for you?
It was a night I shall never forget. My parents and I had settled in for dinner. We had just said the blessing, and, as most homes, during every night in 1968, the news led off with how many people had been killed in Vietnam that day. And then the news reporter cut in and said that he was reporting from Memphis, had just gotten an AP wire from Memphis, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And my mother looked at my father and immediately said, "Martin is dead." And my father said to my mother, we don't know this. We need to listen. We don't know that Martin is dead. And within a few seconds, they announced that from Memphis, Tennessee, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has been assassinated. And at that moment, the three of us got up from the kitchen table, and we each went in different parts of this house alone to gather our thoughts, to understand what we had just heard. And when we reconvened in the dining room at the table, I remember my father and my mother both saying how our lives would never be the same, our country would never be the same, and the world would never, ever experience a Martin Luther King Jr. and what he stood for. Mm-hmm. And of course, so many times I have relived that night, but kept my spirits high, remembering the man that I knew as Uncle Martin and the people that helped carry the voting rights movement in this country to keep it moving forward.
What are your thoughts about what you are seeing now? There's been a lot of people, protesting, rallies, just because a lot of people are concerned with the direction our country is going with President Trump. And having been connected to the civil rights movement, what are your thoughts about that now?
What we are experiencing in our country today is absolutely what is good about our nation and our people. What we're seeing is the essence and soul of America. America would not be that shining place on the hill without the people that we are seeing in the streets and expressing their not only love for this country, but their sincere thoughts and hopes that we can all come together and not be divided. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing that people can take out of their visit to the Jackson home and what this home stands for, we as a nation are stronger together than we are separated. And love will always win over hatred, and peace will always win over war. That is what Dr. King stood for. That is the hallmark of our nation. That is what we should strive to always be. Inclusive, together, and for the American house.
Now we are wrapping up our show, but I wanted to tell everybody where they can find out more information about the Jackson Home Museum. If anyone's in Selma, they can go to your website and find out more information. Can you tell us that?
Certainly. The Jackson Foundation and Museum.com. And, people that visit the site, I urge you to leave messages. Again, it's a way in which we can carry on in the hopes of justice, peace, and freedom for us all.
Well, Joanna, thank you so much for taking time out to tell us your story. It's a remarkable story. And actually, I'm planning on being in that area in the spring, and I will be coming by to see the home, and I'll do an interview with you there and share that with our viewers when I get back. So I'm looking forward to that. But thank you again for being a guest on my show.
Well, thank you, and good luck, and I look forward to welcoming you to the Jackson home.
Okay. Well, thanks again. You've been watching the JoAnne Powell Show. We'll be back here next Wednesday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Until then, be sure to do something nice for someone in need.
If you are an adult that began college and has not finished your college degree, let me put it to you straight. If your lifestyle and your standard of living is not becoming to you, then you should be coming to us, Oakwood University Elite Program. We are the fast, flexible adult degree completion program for the busy adult, like you.
Register today. Go to oakwoodleap.com or call 256-726-7098. It's time to leap.
For years, people have trusted McKay's Family Mortuary. We're part of your community and we'll take care of the details. We offer a variety of memorial services, including sea scattering and cremation. According to the Federal Trade Commission, the average funeral cost is over $9,000. We have complete funeral chapel service starting at only $31.25, casket included. Direct cremation starting at only $9.95. Visit one of our 5 locations and meet our caring and diverse staff. McKay Family Mortuary. Let us be the shoulder to lean on.
Thanks to Oakwood University and the LEAP program, I have now a college degree. So to the Spanish-speaking members of this community who feel that the LEAP program is something you should consider, I would say, ánimo a la universidad. Considere el programa LEAP de Oakwood University.
Go to oakwoodleap.com or call 256-726-7098.
Seize the Day Scuba for your best scuba experience above and below the sea. You'll find friendly staff, experienced PADI certified instructors, and state-of-the-art scuba equipment and gear. Join our dive club and we'll help you plan memorable scuba excursions. Immerse yourself. Seize the Day Scuba, serving Southern California. Call 949-220-0500 to create your scuba experience.
When I first started into the program, yes, I had doubts. I was really impressed with Oakwood University, with the faculty and the staff and the student body. It was a really good experience, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who was thinking about going back and finishing their degree.
Register today. Go to oakwoodleap.com or call 256-726-7098.